Boom shakalaka!
Hey everyone, this is The Smash, Justin Simmons, and of course, if you know and familiar with my work, obviously a highly talented professional broadcaster. I'm sure that most of you haven't even heard who I am, but I have done a lot of Division I sports, football, basketball, baseball, softball, what have you. I do it all. But I love talking soccer, and if any of you are familiar with what we used to have here in Austin on the Sports Talk, it is, back on the horn, it was the throw-in. But now, without that, and obviously lots of changes being made over there, as I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to edit that. But I still miss talking soccer, and I think that, even 5 minutes, if I can fit in 5 minutes a day, that it would definitely be worth my time to talk soccer. So you can see, still have all my soccer gear. Not exactly the finest backdrop, but we're going to go ahead and talk soccer anyways. And, man, it just doesn't feel right. I'll tell you what, why don't we just go ahead and make a little change? And we're back. So a quick change, and yeah, this looks a lot better because we're going to be talking Champions League, specifically how Manchester City destroyed Real Madrid and got very lucky thanks to the play of Kevin De Bruyne. Now, if you happen to listen to Austin Radio for some odd reason, and if you hadn't, I had said last week on Austin Radio that KDB, he's the best midfielder in the world, and that is definitely true. But as for the rest of the Champions League, considering all the stuff that City's having to deal with right now, we're talking about the possibility of being banned from Champions League for an additional 2 years, to not even having a proper opportunity to defend the title in the Premier League this year just because of Liverpool's form. So this really is possibly their best chance and only chance to win Champions League. And you think about some of the teams, the way that they performed last week, I mean, I don't know if it's going to get any better. PSG underperformed. Obviously, Real Madrid losing to City, that was at least unexpected, especially at the Bernabeu. You have Barca, who was struggling. And then, of course, Juve, these guys back here, not being able to handle Lyon. So it's just interesting on how this may play out. I'm thinking City gets through, and if anything, they should be able to reach the Final Four this year. If not, at least get to the final. But obviously, as a City fan, I would love for them, love it, if they can win the whole thing. Well, and that's it for Champions League. So let's go ahead, and since it is the start of MLS season, let's go ahead and move on to some MLS talk. And that prompted another costume change. And as you can see with this shirt on right now, well, we have one more year to go before the start of Austin FC. So technically speaking, my MLS club is still undefeated. But when we're talking about this coming season, who's possibly going to win it all? And coming from somebody who's seen, a handful of MLS games throughout the last few years and has a decent understanding of how the league is looking, I can be for certain that it's probably not going to be FC Dallas. It's probably not going to be Houston. And I would like to say that it probably won't be San Jose. I don't think it's going to be the Earthquakes either. Nor the Chicago Fire. Oh my gosh, that kit. Horrible, horrible looking kit. Do not buy that. Make MLS change that, people. Anyways, so to give you an idea of who I think is actually going to be in the finals, because it's just way too early to call, and the start of the season is actually tomorrow, or today, or it's yesterday, depending on when you watch this. Let's just go with Seattle and Toronto, because for some odd reason, it doesn't matter how good the rest of the league is, it doesn't matter how good an individual player is, it doesn't matter how good Atlanta United is. For some odd reason, I just have a feeling that these two teams will be battling for the MLS Cup at the end of the year one more time. And for one more season, I have to deal without professional sports in Austin at the top tier level. But next year, we finally get to see Austin FC. So I'm looking forward to it. I don't live far away from the building. That stadium is looking huge, to say the least. You know what's funny is I personally never had an emo phase, but this whole hair thing, it's really starting to get out of situation here. But I digress. And again, with MLS just starting out tomorrow. Oh, wow. Somebody's going to think it's funny. Somebody's really going to turn off the video because of this. But anyways, with MLS starting tomorrow, I wanted to make sure I got this video done. Now, in case you didn't hear, the Premier League is actually going to have a Hall of Fame. And I wanted to pose this question to you, and I'm sure you've been thinking about it already. You can only put in two, and it has to happen soon. You can only put in two players, and they have to be retired. So who do you pick? I mean, you think about when the Premier League actually started in the early 90s. We're not talking about first division players. Obviously, there was a lot of class in Liverpool's side during the 80s and early 90s. But that's not what we're looking at here. We're looking at players that made a huge impact during the Premier League era. Now, off the top of my head, I'm thinking it's going to be Alan Shearer, Ryan Giggs. Of course, you can make a argument for players such as John Terry, Stevie G, Frank Lampard, Wayne Rooney. All those guys will be there at some point, but I think we have to start with guys that played earlier in the Prem as opposed to that mid-2000s point where a lot of Americans, like myself, really got into the European game. Not to say that we didn't have it beforehand, but finally it was at a point where we could watch it with some consistency. So that's who I think should go in. Of course, I'm always going to have a soft spot for Paul Gascoigne. I'm not sure how much he actually played in the Prem during his career, especially at his peak. I know he was with Tottenham and then moved over to Serie A, but I would have to go back and check. So there's still some room, obviously Paul Gascoigne and, at some point, all the great English players, Beckham, Terry, I already mentioned a few. What's his name? I hate United, obviously, so it's hard for me to give him props, but at some point, all those players are going to go in to the Premier League Hall of Fame. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of 5 Minutes of Soccer with Smash, and I look forward to the next one. Thanks for watching.